listening to The Dating Den with dating and relationship badass and best-selling author Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important dating, sex, and relationship issues you want to know about. So if you're ready for true talk that's authentic and unfiltered, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
The Dating Den, episode 95 with Chris G. What does a quality guy really think about dating and relationships? Our favorite man panelist gets honest. Ladies, welcome into the Dating Den. Are you feeling a little hot in here? Would you like to hear from a very hot, real man? So here's the thing. I just went to visit my kids. I've been talking about this. They're in their 20s, so it's basically like around really young, hot guys. Then I went and saw A Damn Star Is Born, and I just literally wanted to like make out with Bradley Cooper. And I realized that, you know, here's the thing. There are plenty of hot men out there who are actually quality men. I know for some of you are like, no, I have to settle. Like, good guys are like, you know, unattractive and good on paper, but there's no chemistry. And so what I really wanted to do today in honor to celebrate hot quality men is I thought I would I put a piece of steak in the dating den, and I lured a real hot man into the den to come share with you insights on what real quality hot men do think and feel so that you can understand them, so you can nab yourself one real fast. So welcome, Chris, into the Dating Den. Hey, Chris.
Wow. I don't know if you ladies can feel it, but I'm blushing right now through the phone. Marni knows how to make a dark man blush. And,
a dark man blush.
Thank you.
That's so funny.
That's
well,
beautiful.
So for those of you, if you followed us when we had our web show, we had a show on YouTube, and Chris was on the show a lot of the time. So if you want to go get a picture of this yummy eye candy, you can go to our YouTube channel and search The Dating Den. And I've known Chris for like, oh my gosh, like maybe 10 years at least, probably 11, I think.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You were like barely 30. You were like but a man child when I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And literally I was newly single. And I met Chris at a personal development workshop, and he's totally got this core value on learning and growing and becoming the best person he could be. And like, we totally hit it off and became friends. And no, we never had sex. We never kissed. We never made out or anything, just in case you're wondering. Although there was that one moment.
There was.
But we never did. We never crossed the line.
No.
So we're legit friends only. And I was literally like, dude, like I need help dating and understanding men, because I was like, I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know how to play with the players. I like literally was clueless, and you were like my text buddy. I'd be like, okay, this is what happened. What should I say? And you literally taught me like how to understand men.
Mm-hmm.
You were the guy. You were the guy.
Yeah.
Through
it was
all
like
this
Karate Kid, and you were Daniel's son, and it was Master Miyagi. I helped you. I taught you the ways.
I was
late night. Thousands and thousands of text. Ladies, I cannot stress when I say tens of thousands of text messages, I literally mean tens of thousands of text messages, just sitting there like all night. She was so curious, and I loved it. It was
so fun. But literally I was, I was no different than you ladies. I was just like, holy shit, I'm 38 years old. I've been married for like 17 years. What the fuck do I do? So cut to today. Chris taught me a lot about understanding man. He's been a huge, huge supporter. He helped me actually create the whole like manimal profiles. He sat on like countless number of our man panels that we do with our clients live. He's been on our YouTube show, and he is an awesome resource for all of us. So what I thought I would do today is we had some clients write in, and just like we do on our live man panel, and you're going to love this because it's a man panel with just you, dude. You don't have to share the mic.
No, I know. That's the worst part. I just want to hog it the whole time.
I think everybody wants to hog it the whole time. So we decided we'll just have Chris live because he was so good at our last man panel we did with our clients. Okay, so question number 1. Are you ready for this?
Well,
okay.
I'm excited for this. Let's do this.
This is a brand new trend. So I really wanted to hear from you. So apparently there's this thing now called orbiting, which is different from ghosting. For those of you who don't know, orbiting is like you meet a guy, you go out on a date, you start to follow each other on social media. He ghosts, right? So he doesn't ever like call you again, but he's liking your pictures and stalking you on Instagram. Why the hell do men orbit? Why do they like follow you, connect, but they totally aren't into you today?
So that's a great question. I love the word stalk, by the way. It's such a manimal thing to do, right? It's like, I was curious. It's almost like women, I wonder if they want to be stalked a little bit, you know?
They totally do. Oh my God. So I have my daughters, right? And they're like, oh my God, my ex has totally just liked my picture. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but why do guys do it?
So that's a great question. So orbiting versus just ghosting. I wonder. So I think there's we do it for a few reasons. One is if we are wondering if we're kind of keeping one hand on one vine of the tree and not quite letting go, and we want it until we get that other vine's perfectly lined up. So we want to kind of keep something on tap just in case. We can always go back. For option B. That's one option. Like, okay, play it safe. Another option, I wonder if we're doing it if we're like, you know what, this woman has a lot of potential and she's just not quite there. And I've told her, hey, and I want to, it's not working out, and I want to see how she reacts to it, and I want to see if maybe she can grow on her own. Because I'm a firm believer in that men, women, we can't change anybody, but if we say what we need and then we walk away, and if they do it on their own cognizance, and maybe it is something that they'll make those changes for us, or they will realize and wake up and say, heck, you know what? Okay, I'll do that. The third thing I wonder is if a guy does that, and then I wonder how clear has the woman made her intentions are. So let's say if they're breaking up, and we're seeing this not working out, is the woman saying, you know what, hey, let's I want something serious, maybe I don't know, maybe I have kids, and or I want marriage, and the guy's just not on board with that. And maybe is the guy is the woman still allowing herself to stick around versus completely closing him off? Because does it take two to orbit?
Well, that's what I think. I mean, look, here's the thing. You can block somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can block them. You can make it so they can't see your posts. So I think that's an actually interesting idea, right? It's like, well, the thought is, well, maybe if he sees me, he'll realize how awesome I am, and then he'll come back. Yeah.
And so you were talking about your daughter, how she has her talking about her ex-boyfriends are totally stalking her. Let's be honest here. I think that women, the girls, are masters at detective work and keeping tabs on everyone they've hooked up with, and keeping them just kind of in their hopper, and which I think is kind of a crappy thing to do, especially if they're trying to date somebody new, to have these constant reminders, these niggling reminders of these guys who did them dirty or have bad feelings. Like, well, then unfollow them. But I don't get, I don't get unfollowed very much, and I'll notice, when I'll post something, the only people who look at it are, girls in my past. Like, that's strange. My actual friends I want to see it don't care, but the girls who are supposed to hate me, they're the only ones who watch it. I'm like, what the fuck? Such a weird audience.
It is a weird audience. And what's interesting too is, so my daughters, and I think that women do this, they do block, right? Or they do unfollow, but then they've got their posse of girls. They'll be like,
yes.
Oh my God. Screenshot. Yeah. Look what Chris just posted. Like, I thought you said he wasn't ready for a relationship, and now he just went to Asia with Bethany Sue or whatever.
Yes, exactly. So as if, so their hands are clean, and the guy can't say they saw it. And then the new thing is on Instagram. So again, there's all these different social medias. On Instagram, it's slick. The one way, so people love looking at stuff, stalking it. That just means you're looking at your photos, but you're not actually liking or acknowledging that you're looking at someone's photos. But when someone posts something on an Instagram story, which is like a live feed of short little videos you post throughout the day that disappear, in 24 hours, it does actually show you. It does actually show you who looked at your photo. So that's probably what so that's how so many dumb guys who are total stalkers get called out, and they find out, and the girl's like, oh my God, he's totally stalking me. He's watching my stories.
Well,
That's what they're talking about.
and you can do that on Snapchat too, because I am
Yeah.
cool enough to be on Snapchat.
for sure.
You can
Yeah,
totally do it.
Yeah, Instagram was the thing though, because guys thought it was great. You know, all these girls have got all their butt pictures and stuff when they're, they're in their bikinis and all that, and guys and girls think they're, or guys think they're safe, but then and I've told so many guys, I'm like, hey, you dingus, everybody can see that you're watching your story. Like, what? You can? Yes. Yeah. So. Man.
So it's not good. So here's the thing. I think there's two main points. Is there could be a multitude of reasons why someone is either stalking or actually actively looking and liking. But there's two things. One is that what Chris suggested is if you're looking to truly move on, then you want to remove yourself from the triggers of the past. Number two is if you have this fantasy that some guy is going to suddenly change and that you're going to seduce him into wanting to come back because he'll see how awesome you are, that's manipulative and inauthentic. And there was a reason why you didn't work out in the first place. And then the third thing is just because people like to keep their options open. And so, so maybe it was a case of right guy, wrong time. Maybe it's okay to be social media friends. But otherwise, like, would you say if you were going to kind of sum it up, if you want to move on, should you if someone's orbiting you, should you make yourself unorbitable?
100%. 100. Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because there really is, especially in this time that we live in, where eyeballs are such power. And I do wonder how many people, guys and girls I know, they use social media not because they really have a story to tell, or they want to, make someone's life better, which I think should be the purpose of it. But it's almost like, hey, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. And they're constantly throwing these little roses in there, like, hey, don't forget about me. And it's tough to, it is tough to move on when you're. I mean, good Lord, what would you do if let's just take it back to old school. If somebody, would you keep opening up these letters? And again, that thing with social media, boom, it just pops up there, right, in your feed or whatever. So you can. But if every day there was, would you keep reading the letters that get sent to your house if you didn't want to talk to some guy?
No,
you
totally.
lock up your freaking mailbox. If that guy's, you can continue to do that, and that's what you can do. You do have the power. We do have the power with social media to do that, or whatever, Facebook or wherever, to either unfriend them or block if you have to. But if you really want to make that clear move on, so they say don't set ourselves up as a victim, because in the end, the cool thing about it is we are ideally in all reality in total control of what we see, and how we think and how it makes us feel.
I love that. It's brilliant. Chris, damn, you're so smart. Okay. Question. I love that. That was a great conversation about orbiting. We are on the cutting edge here at Dating with Dignity, people. How many people are talking about orbiting? I don't know. Okay. Number two. How do women get your attention? Is it just how they look, or is it their confidence or what they say, or is there something else?
Great question. Yeah, absolutely. So, as a little disclaimer, I live in Los Angeles, where there's just an insane amount of beautiful people walking around. And I always say, hey, congratulations for being born with that face. It's like, and it was, when I first came here, I was so awestruck, by the beautiful people. And I'd meet some, girl who was, I'm from, in Oregon, where, we always say, like, she said, in Oregon 10, but like in LA 6.5, or whatever on look. But then after a while, it always washes out. Not after a while, it always washes out. So the great thing is, and especially works in guys' favor, because a lot of times we're not super good looking guys, but luckily, there's some super good looking. At the end of the day, the looks wash out, and if you're a turd, then you're a turd. It doesn't matter how great you look. And it's funny. That's a great question too, because also just based on we asked about the looks thing. Me and my friends, the people I know, the men I know, we trust, and we put less value, not just people who live in LA, but less value in, especially when it comes to online, and online physical attractiveness, because of all the angles and smoke and mirrors and duck lips and purse things and then Lululemon, which makes everybody look sexy and slim. All these great things. Every girl can look beautiful on there. So now, I take it for the grain of salt. And I actually didn't, just a disclaimer, I didn't have a lot of luck when I did the online stuff, because every girl looked the same. They were all pretty, And as far as they didn't get my attention to get to your main point of, well, how do they get your attention? And they didn't get to my attention because they didn't hit, Marni touched on core values and things that they really, they really press my red buttons and really, really turn me on. And, which has evolved over time. Like I said, when I first came here, I was, just a superficial, douchebag when I came to Los Angeles. And I think that because I've been overly fed with beauty, with looks and all that stuff, it really does. It always wears off on everybody. But even like shaking that bait at me right now, that fishing pet tackle used to be shook. It doesn't get my attention like it used to anymore, except in very, very, very rare examples. But no, it really doesn't. And what gets me, again, every guy's different, but we got to find out, every man's wired differently. And for me, I love, like Marni pointed out, I love the pursuit of knowledge and just deep conversations and figuring out why things are and just exploring things and learning why I'm wrong about a lot of things. And so I'd say, intelligence. And also for me, like what comes to online is I love laughing. That's nothing more than I value. It's so hard to find a beautiful girl and that has all those things and intelligent, but still have, I'm still searching out there for that right combination of that, of that intelligence, that funny, that introspectiveness, and also just ability to be silly and make a person laugh. So those are the things that really get me. So like I said, back to, my online dating stuff, when I was doing it, when I was actively doing it, I mean, like it was, God, I almost made it a full-time job. It was ridiculous. I had to turn it off. Like I was obsessed. It was really, really weird. So I do a kind of obsessive personality. I mean, I literally ran out of people to swipe in Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
At one point, it was
It is addicting. It's addicting.
They must have changed the algorithm. Oh God. God, absolutely. It's just like, I was like a rat, just, putting these little pellets, and it just felt so good to get all these matches and stuff. But in the end, nobody stuck out, and they were all, all stalled, just stuck there, and, on the chafe, and there was I couldn't really suss out anybody of interest. And they all seemed the same. And I think that's the problem with online dating, is because you get so many freaking fastballs thrown at you. In the end, you're just like, ugh, they all just look exactly the same. And it was just too much. But so for me though, I didn't bite, and I didn't take girls out on it. I would just enjoy the matches.
Right.
It was, and
dopamine
and it's
hit.
embarrassing. It is. And it's embarrassing for me to say that, because, as Marni introduced me as this, great guy and everything, but no, it was definitely pressing an insecurity button on me. And I was to the point I had to look at myself like, wow, I'm really ashamed of that. Like, what's wrong? Like, that's ugly that these complete strangers, I wanted their approval so badly. And it did feel like a dopamine hit. So, and then I wasn't doing anything with it. I had all these matches, hundreds of matches. I just wasn't doing anything about it. So, so it because I wasn't able to see their personality, and I probably wasn't putting my best foot forward. In the end, I was being lazy. They were being lazy. Whereas I still think to this day, the best way, I had a conversation about this because I have these conversations that Marni's having with you, with my men. I got my own little man panel of guys that, God, they're calling me and, asking me about things. But we were talking about, we think it's really disempowering to have, things like, Bumble, Tinder, whatever. And in that because tell me if I'm wrong, that hopefully this doesn't sound chauvinistic, but I think one of the best ways that if a man really cares about a woman is the way that he can make her feel special and cherished and prized, is by having the balls to walk up across her, fight through his nerves, and suck up the courage and go up there and start a conversation and ask her out in person. And I still think that's hands down the best thing. And I hear women are always talking, well, men don't ask me out. Well, and then we'll probably touch on this later, but but a lot of women, I don't know if they necessarily open themselves up, because it takes a little risk too.
Well, that's a huge thing. Okay, so let me just kind of put a little bow tie on the getting your attention. I think what's really important is, so when we teach our women to date online, we are actually doing this really special secret sauce that really, number one, shows your core values, and it's written and presented in a way that actually does stand out. And that's why our women have such luck. And number two, the way we have our clients do their photos is really evocative of their personality and their soul and their style, right? And the way, like, she's throwing her head back and laughing, right? It's not like a headshot or whatever. You can really see the light in her eyes. And I think that is really, because if you're going to stand out online, so many of you who are listening are dead on the inside, meaning your eyes are dead, right? You're so jaded. You're so angry. You're so like, oh my God, this is such a waste of time. I can't believe I have to do these photos. Or you're out with your friends and you're doing a fake smile because your friend is going to put this on your profile. And I will tell you, then you just become vanilla online. You're just one of the humans, you know, in the corral of online dating. And so I think if you're going to freaking do it, then do it right and stand out so that someone can see your core values, that your profile isn't like everyone else's, and that your photos are professional but evocative of your personality and your soul, so that when a guy is scrolling through, he's like, shit, like this person's alive. So that's I think it's a really important thing. The other thing, what I think is amazing, is what we talked about, manvolution, right? Like the evolving man. And like, I'll never forget, like a long time ago, you were like, dude, like how many more boobs can I see? Like, you know what I mean? You're like how many more can I see? And that's when you kind of made that next step, you know? And I know that women and men, we go back and forth, right? Like if it doesn't work out, then we need to see some more boobs, or you know, hit up some hot guys or whatever it is. But the bottom line is that ultimately, and I think this is so important for everyone to hear Chris say this, for a quality guy, yes, of course there has to be attraction. But what is sustainable is integrity, shared common values, someone who can make you laugh, someone who respects you, someone who makes you feel like a hero. Like all of these things that are really about sustaining a long-term intimate relationship. Because in the end, you know, looks will fade, and we can be really beautiful and ugly on the inside, or we can be beautiful on the inside and become stunning on the outside.
I love that, and I love that you're what you said earlier about. I do think what we're speaking of so far is just that initial attraction, that initial bite of getting that, you know, that big buck in the forest with the 8-10 point ant to take a look and get the attention. And I think that's so great that you are doing something, and you hit it on the head. There is so much insanely lazy, boring, uncreative, cliche, not real people on the social media, not really taking a risk. And like I said, cool, you know, like I said, cool, you're born with a great face, you know, and they're doing that same quasi pursed duck lip thing. I'm like, that's not how you smile in real life. Don't do that. You know what I mean? If you have this big cheesy grin, there's something it's probably hard for some of you guys to hear this, but that's so much sexier and authentic and attractive, or a funky laugh or whatever it is. Like, be real, be you, because there's otherwise, it just blends all in, and I think it sends a different message too, because I think if you're starting the whole relationship off with, hey, here's a fake version of me, like you're gonna have, if you're lucky enough to get to know, God, I hate when people say that sort of thing. I'm like, you know what, gross, I don't want to be lucky enough to get to know you and all these things. And
well, that's because we were talking about this earlier, like it's like women put men on trial for crimes they haven't committed.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, if you're lucky enough, because the other assholes are like, you know, and so like, don't have your profile or your real life energy say like, prove to me you're not an asshole like all the rest of the guys I've dated, because that will that's such a turnoff, right?
It's painfully, the internet's chock full of those people out there. So good on you. So guys, keep listening to Marni, keep putting yourself out, be weird, be authentic. It's better to do something a little bit, you know, risky and strange, but authentic, and put yourself out there and let that person decide. Because at the end, they're going to find out anyways, you know? So enough with all the smoke and angles, and God dang it, man.
It's so annoying. Okay. So let's talk about this. So you said like, for a man to come up and approach is a huge, huge thing. And I totally agree. Cool. And that women aren't making themselves available, whether they're looking at their phone or they're out with their friends and they have resting bitch face. Although someone told me, a man said to her, you know, I just kept watching you. There's something about you. And you kind of had this resting bitch face, but it wasn't necessarily bitch. It was just, I was like intrigued. I was like, what is she thinking about? So there's a difference between, you know, resting bitch face and just being like pensive. But like, so what invites you to like want to approach a person in real life? What are the signs and signals you're looking for that make it easy for you to have that interaction?
I want to see. So, like, by the way, I think the only reason you should have a resting bitch face is if you are a resting bitch. Like, then that's the only. If that's who you are, that's who we who we need to be. Is they say wherever you go, there you are. And I think a lot of people again is they use it as they use these fake smiles, this RBF, resting bitch face. They use these things as a way to protect ourselves. I think
Yeah.
and that you're like sure you're standing near the pool, but you're still in your clothes and you're not in the water. It's like if you're gonna be there, and get out there. And if some guy make yourself, have yourself you don't block yourself off and don't make it impossible, because I think there's such bullshit that people were make ourselves so hard to obtain because we want to think that we're, I guess, I don't know, better than other people, or this person's got to work for me. I was like, okay, calm down. Yes, I'm not saying go out there and date every single person that asks you out, but also at the same time, no need to make us jump through fire, to walk up there and talk to you and to start a conversation. At the same time, yeah, there's so many people on guard. And this is just a strange time to live into. This is like a bigger topic on just as far as women being able to feel safe around men, and then you said and everybody, men being on trial and guilty for everything. And of course it's a small percentage, and that are culpable of that, but but just to that it's no one wants to fight through that armor. I'd rather go with somebody that's arms aren't folded across their chest and doesn't have a mean look on their scowl on their face or whatever. Maybe we'll try once, if that, but then I'm not going to keep going and working on it. That's just a long life. That's exhausting.
Well, I think this points to a really important myth in dating, especially today. Men do not love bitches. Right? There's that book, Why Men Love Bitches. And the truth is, men do not love bitches. And so for you, what is the fine line between, like, obviously you have to treat me with respect. You have to, like, ask me out. I want to be treated like I am a woman of value, versus, like, if you're lucky enough to date me. What's the nuance when you're out there in the world? What are the behaviors or the actions or the things that people say that show you either, like, you're trying to manipulate by playing hard to get, and it's like a game, or you're guarded and you're just a person of value?
I think would be a better name for that book is my ex, who for a long time. Yeah, she had that book. And I think that book, it's just so much more, such a great title of a book because it sounds so empowering, and there's such a badass. So I'm a bitch, and I'm who you want to be. But I think at the heart of heart, I think women are about love, and that's why, and that's the fuel. That's the energy that the men will build temples and pyramids and castles and go fight through wars, because we need that love that's so powerful that the women have. And I think instead, I think that book, and I've read through it, is that it I don't know. I feel like instead it should be like like why men love women who love themselves.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Because it's not that I want you to be a bitch. I just want but then we're a little pot licker sometimes. We will continue, and I'm raising my own hand here right now. I will continue to take from the cookie jar over and over and over again and be a little crap until girls, sometimes somebody girls put me in place, said, hey, you've had enough cookies. I'm like, crap, you're right. Thanks for versus being exhausted and slaving away, baking 24/7. For us, because and losing sleep and not hanging out with your friends, and then being resentful of your life. And I was like, well, okay, no, that's not really that's not really loving yourself. That's now we're talking martyrdom and things like that. So anyway, I just thought that was that title of that book always fascinated me, and it's like people they buy it on their shelf and think on their shelf and go, okay, here it is. I don't need to read it. And but I think that's a more appropriate title.
Well, yeah, because really what men are attracted to, and we hear this on the Man Panel all the time, is a woman who has self-respect, who loves herself, who has boundaries. And yeah, like, and here's the thing, because when you're a person who says, like, I'm going to keep giving you a cookie because it makes me feel like I'm like, maybe that's all I can get, or maybe he'll change, or I just want that moment where we're naked together and I feel connected to him, right? Like, there's all these unhealthy beliefs that are underneath the behavior of, like, hey, at 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
Right? You know, it's
Right.
like,
Right.
and have you ever dated anyone who like was sort of in their evolution and there were a lot of trips to the cookie jar and they just said, I'm not going to do this anymore? Like, did you ever have anyone who took a stand while that was happening and you were like, shit?
Yeah. So I think I think what you said a second ago is extremely important about having for men and women, but having strong boundaries when you're in a relationship and being able to say, and enough is enough, and being able to let the person know that they're not going to get something, and not be afraid of them not loving you, or just feeling like bringing out all these old patterns, and that maybe we had as children, and just but being able to act like an adult about those, being able to dole out consequences and healthy boundaries. Tough thing to do, awesome thing to do in relationships, 100% necessary thing to do, because it's going to have to be done at some point. And I have dated girls, women who have pointed out that, yeah, they've said enough is enough. And I pouted for a little bit, but then I was like, there's a lot of times they were 100% right, and I respected them more for it.
And was there any, so I think women have this fantasy that so if it's a manipulation, like, well, I'm going to tell him I'm not going to put up with this anymore, but like really it's a play.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened where you're like, do you keep trying? Do you keep going back to see if the cookie jar is really off limits?
Absolutely. Yes, of course. Because again, like I said, we're little pot lickers, and we want to keep trying to get more cookies, and we don't want to have to potentially grow up, if that's what it is, or be more mature, or we want to take the easiest route. Also, it's going to be our de facto, and like shit, if they're asking us to do some sort of work or go without or sacrifice, and yeah, of course I'll keep trying, and less so now than before, but that challenge is fun too as well. And I guess also that depends on what type of relationship if you're already in. It's I'd say, heck, whatever it is, it's harder. It's going to be harder to start enforcing big boundaries years down the road if you haven't enforced and boundaries and early on in the relationship. Little things, then by the end it just becomes a healthy boundary sort of relationship.
And I think that's really important because women will say, like, I told him, I was looking for a real relationship, and that if he wanted something else to not call me anymore. You're like, I did the boundary. And then he calls and they're like, oh, that must mean that he likes me. And what I want you all to hear is no, what it means is that I'm going to keep trying just to make sure that you really meant it. Right? Because there's a chance, right? So don't make up a story that if you set a boundary and then a guy comes back, that suddenly he's changed.
Yeah. And also I want to say, because Marni and I, we had also a friend who's, I don't know if he was a dating coach, but he gave some advice to an ex I had about basically saying, laying out the boundaries of what it is earlier on in the relationship, and saying, well, this isn't all fun and games. I only want this and this. And I there could be a chance, whether it's good or bad, I guess that depends, but also laying down, maybe, is it an ultimatum or is it a boundary? Because sometimes, men will be slick. It's easy to say, oh yeah, honey, I totally want that too, just to get in your pants or to get whatever it is that they're actually truly going for. Just to say, words are cheap, but the actions, I think, if all you need to do is just hey, have us say the passcode and the secret password and we're in, then okay, we're going to say it. A good man won't, but yeah.
That's so true. Well, Matt Boggs calls it the silent movie, right? Like, so a guy's actions are really more important than his words. My favorite story is when I was hanging out with the dudes when I was single. One of my friends who I also never made out with, Aaron, told me this great story, and he said, I was totally hooking up with this girl. It was like the third date. She didn't have sex with me, and the third date, I'm literally naked. I'm in that moment. I'm on top of her, and she goes, "Does this mean you're my boyfriend?" And he's like, sure.
Yeah.
Insert, and he was like, sure. And he was like, what the? He didn't mean it, right? So don't have that, like, are we a thing conversation, when there's a penis, like, within 1 inch of your body.
Yeah. And I guess you understand the difference between an ultimatum versus a ultimatum that a person can manipulate for their own good, versus an actual boundary, on something, versus an actual healthy boundary, because something isn't making because you're not okay with something. If you have your set of rules and your guidelines, don't compromise that. But versus being like, well, I need you to say this and this. Well, if you're really setting it up to make it just a set of words,
and it's also like mother-child. It's just weird. One thing that when Jeremy and I broke up in between, our relationship after 5 years, we broke up and he moved out and he was doing his thing and he was going on these trips and he was texting me photos of his trip. And I was like, dude, I was like, it's going back to the orbiting. I'm like, you're basically orbiting me, except instead of on social media, it's coming right into my phone. And so the boundary was like, what's not okay is you sending pictures. Right? Because you made a choice to not have me in your life, and I'm okay with that choice, but that means I can't be the person that you share your adventures with. And it wasn't like an ultimatum, which would have been like, if you're going to send me pictures, then that means like you're ready to be in a relationship. And so come back when you want to be in a relationship. No. Right? It was like, hey, you know what? This is like a privilege that you've lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so hard. And I'm nailing a couple of friends on it right now, but I really do believe that if you're, like you said, if you're choosing not to be with somebody, then it's important to set up to move forward if you're not with that person, and not texting them and sending pictures and thinking about them, because that's just manipulative and that's mean, especially if you really do care about that other person and you want them to move on. And it's just not helpful for us, because then we're giving an unrealistic simulation of what life's going to be like without us, because that's not how life's going to be like. You're not going to be getting texts and things like that with somebody. It's just keeping one foot in the water without keeping one toe in. It's like either do it or don't. It's hard to do because, of course, being lonely sucks and all that. But it's I don't know. It's really guys are terrible at it. Guys are the worst at it. We're big babies.
That's so true. It's so true. It's like you don't get girlfriend privileges without taking boyfriend responsibilities.
Yep.
Bam. Okay. So first of all, you're already like, you have to come back. So I'm going to invite you back into the den again. This time though, next time you have to take your shirt off. Okay. Just kidding. Just kidding. I know. I tell you,
still got that tiger's the beast.
Dude, I so have it. I was like, literally like by the end of my trip, I'm like, I need to bang my husband. Like seriously, I can't be around any more like hot men, like young men. It was just bad. So anyway. But it was good.
He is a young hot man.
I know. He's so hot. No, he's so hot. And he is young. Hot. But what's really great for me, and this is my little share, was like I get so busy in like producing and working and household responsibilities and management. Like I realized that playful like part of myself that, was just like buried. And I was like, oh my God, like come back. Like you're cool. You're fun. So she's back. Okay. Yeah, right. So last thing, I asked this at the end of a lot of our man panels. And the question is this. So if you were to talk to these ladies who are listening, like they were your sister, and you wanted to give her one crucial piece of advice about dating and love from the perspective of a cool, deep guy who really cares about her, like someone who's got her back, what's that last piece of advice you would give?
Say that question one more time, because I want to give it some thought.
Okay. So if you were going to give your sister, someone you care about, advice about dating, and it was just like distilled it down to like your hashtag, right? Like your Twitter version of like advice. What would it be?
So I think about, I do have a sister and I think about her a lot. And I think my sister is not that. I think my sister would benefit immensely from your program, and she absolutely won't listen to her big brother. I am her big brother, and she's been getting advice from me all my life. And now, but I do think that she's successful. She's beautiful. She's extremely smart. She makes great money. And yet, like, well, why is she single? And she's, been divorced twice. If I was to give her some advice, and I would say something on the lines of take ownership and pride of being the best woman that you can be. Because I truly believe that when we can be the best woman we can be, and that doesn't mean be the best woman. When a woman can be the best woman she can be, that she's going to find the best man for her. And that means that I think we live in a world where everybody's trying to be everybody. And, like I'm, trying to become, guys are trying to be the best listener, and girls are trying to be the best in the boardroom, and then we come home and we're like, oh crap, wait, who am I again? And it's hard to shut it off. But I think if you can really, like you said a second ago, Marty, you said that you're really focusing on being that little playful kitty cat, that sexual kitty cat, that fun, frisky girl that no matter it all steps in life, that hopefully if we can retain that spirit, that's going to bring out that extra, that manliness, that thing that you love and you want in your men's life. So, so truly. So I would say, be honest with ourselves, always be asking ourselves, hey, what am I doing here? Or, how could I be better? And how can I grow as a partner, is my, particular sexual role that I'm taking on in this relationship. And because when we really master that, I think we open it up to also invite in the best of the other side, the other species in there, to come in there and dance with us.
I love that. I think that's so true. It's so true because, like I said, I have these young girls, and it's all about like gender roles and non-biased, and all that's super important. But in the end, we're women.
Yes.
We have vaginas, and the men that we want to date have juicy cocks, and like we all want to, we all just want to get it on and have like intimacy, not just physical but emotional. And so, like, when you said be the woman who you are, that means like be fully a woman and find a man who's fully a man, and
be open to our femininity. Yeah, open your femininity to attract that masculinity, and understand, we're not it's not a one size fits all, but there is something that makes you feel truly feminine, and don't fake it or pretend to be somebody else, because like I said earlier, we're always going to find out the truth about who we are. So own it, be rad, be rad about it. And if be honest with yourself, say, what am I not doing right now that's super feminine? And again, and that's, your super feminine is have to be the same as somebody else's super feminine. But I have a feeling that just a few small little tweaks on your end are just gonna set a whole flood of like I said, these big wild bucks in the forest just looking your way and being curious. What's that over there? And they walk over there, and then maybe they make a glance. Then maybe you smile and flirt. And everything, it goes on from there. Everything's beautiful.
I love it. That is sage advice from Mr. Chris, who is, you're single.
I am.
You're single. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Just so you know. So if you want to like get some feminine energy and just listen to this episode a bunch of times, you guys go ahead and do that. Don't forget, subscribe, tell your friends. And while you're in the pursuit of love, intimacy, and your personal favorite big juicy cock, don't forget to date with some damn dignity, ladies. We love you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.